Welcome to Gems with Shom, a show about beat digging, records, and other things. Today, I'm joined by Doc DeLay, DJ, producer, record collector. I first heard of Doc DeLay from his legendary work on the REM Sleep mixtape series, which changed the game for me as some of the most devastating psych rock madness I've ever heard. It opened up a whole portal for me. With that said, Doc DeLay is a great producer. He's had a series of accomplishments before and after these mixtapes. There's certainly more to a person. I thought our audience would find this topic fascinating. Thank you for joining me, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
You have a very special set of skills and your expertise is important. When I first thought about doing a show about beat digging, you're one of the first names I wrote down. So I'm very excited to have you on.
Thanks, man.
All right. You're a man of the world. Where did you grow up?
I am from Washington, D.C., a little part of the city called Adams Morgan. Pretty vibrant place. To this day, a lot of clubs and restaurants and nightlife. Always was since I was a little kid.
Awesome. Awesome. How was your life growing up there?
Well, it's D.C. in the 80s, so, it was a rough town. It was dirty. But, you know, I don't think it's much different than anyone else who grew up urban during that time. There was, a lot going on. My parents were super young and liberal and unafraid, and they just let me ride my bike around, and I'd go pick up groceries for my mom, or, you know, there was just like a few rules, like don't ride past 16th Street, don't, you know. But yeah, growing up, definitely didn't have a lot of barriers, so that was good.
What took you into the world of beat digging?
Um, I was like a pretty avid fan of rap music through high school and before. Um, and as I, you know, got more and more into it, I realized that there was this culture of sampling and getting those samples and finding samples and hiding samples and with no internet, that was kind of quiet as kept, and it was a lot like graffiti in a way. It was like this kind of subculture that it was secret, and if you were in the know, you would kind of spot people along the way, like at a record store or a flea market, and you'd be like, oh, this guy's you know probably a beat maker or something like that. And yeah, I guess that's how it was, just the subculture of it. And um I I found those things magnetic.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think the secrecy part of it is not talked about enough, right? Back then, I think it meant a lot more when samples were exposed. It could cost someone their livelihood.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How did you get so deep in the game? I would say you took it in a very specific direction.
In college, I went to school in Richmond, Virginia, and that place was very, it seems like it was like the end of the line for a lot of retail stuff, right? There was just warehouses of things, and just so many, the end of the line for distribution there. Records just were poured in the city, and they were everywhere. And yeah, a friend of mine showed me eBay, which was new. This is 96, 97, around then. I didn't have the internet, but we had a library with internet access, and I started putting records on eBay and shipping them, to Japan and to Australia and to Germany and, in the States too. Um, but that definitely, the financial incentive helped accelerate the hobby, and then along the way I find things for myself. But it certainly, it helped invigorate my energy in that direction.
So at that point, you became a record dealer, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was that end of it for sure, and it helped, um, pay for college for me, so
It's something that always crossed my mind. I remember meeting a record dealer years ago in New York. I went to buy a turntable from this guy, right? Really nice guy. And he had a 1200. I was buying it. He's showing me it. And then I realized, oh, this guy's got all these records.
Mhm.
And we just started talking. I was like, man, this guy's got all this shit. I mean, I have a lot of the same records. And he's like, yeah, I'm a record dealer. If you want to buy some records, we can do that too. So I started buying records from him. I visited him a few times. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. I mean, I'm just a customer. I
Mhm.
can make this a job. Now, I have no idea if that's a good direction in life, but it's something that's always tempted me.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because I feel like in the last couple years, we are at peak amateur prospector. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't, I still sell records and I buy collections, and I end up with a lot of detritus, right? Like things I can't really do much with, and I'll just put them out on my porch like a box and be like, $100, come get it. And there's like an a never-ending list of people who are just like so happy to get a box of records. They think there's gold in there. Um, you've got Discogs and eBay and Facebook Marketplace and all these places, and avenues. And really, you do have people paying a lot for very common titles. So I do feel like right now we are at peak amateur prospector for records. So, that's been kind of tough lately, but everybody's got this, app on their phone that'll like scan the AI algorithm scans the value from whatever, and yeah, it's probably pretty tough to be a dealer right now. You know,
There's a lot of reasons why that is. Firstly,
yeah,
I'm glad there's this resurgence in interest from very young people. I mean, you
sure,
and I were once those young people, and they think records are cool. I mean, they are. However, they don't have the historic knowledge and also the way, like you mentioned, use of apps and the change in the way record stores are. Most record stores now are collector stores. I like that. You're not going to get a lot of deals, right?
hmm
It's not digging in the sense that you were doing in Richmond and probably everywhere else that I was doing, going to record fairs, buying collections, getting kind of dirty in dirty record stores in the middle of nowhere and
hmm
finding those rare gems for cheap because of your effort and knowledge. There's very little that is, it still happens. It's just less common for the average person. They don't even know how to do that.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
I I feel no pride, but I did put in the footwork. You know what I mean? I put in the
Oh,
steps, so yeah, I can go through a bin of records really fast. And I mean, I'm not going to say I don't see anything that I don't know, but my radar is developed. You know, it's it's internal. It is not guided by the internet.
yeah.
You know,
I bet. I bet. I bet. Now, let's go back to where you were in your life. Where does the world of Soul Strut come into play for you? Because I'll be honest, that's how I heard of your work.
huh? Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, it was a great way for people like me to reach other like-minded folks. Um, and if you were into manipulating samples and stuff like that, it was a great place to share your you know your creativity. And for some reason, I guess people gravitated towards mine, and that was a great way to reach folks. You didn't need an A&R, you didn't need a label, and yeah, it pushed me to continue making stuff and getting better at it. And so that for that I'm grateful. And it was a great place to meet folks too. I didn't meet a lot of people that I I thought were goofballs. Like it was a pretty tight group of folks. I think it's just record digging in general, just kind of you know, uh good folks just gravitated towards it, and I mean, the internet was the Wild West too. So it's a great place to, gain knowledge, ask questions. Um, and then, like, as that site got bigger, more and more people started showing up there, other producers that I knew of previously, stuff like that. So it was a great way to branch out, um, just in business in general.
You certainly branched out. I mean, you became well known through maybe many channels. That was one. And thinking about Soulstrut, I mean, a few people have been on this show who were quite active writers, authors. Oliver was a guy in here. His name is Odub. And
Who, Oliver?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You guys were probably both quite active. And I was a fly on the wall. I was just learning. It was almost overwhelming. But then over time, I started getting to know the names. I would have a literal piece of paper with a list where I'd like try to memorize titles, which is a quite a futile way to learn because you're not going to take that list and walk into a store. It never worked that way, but helped inform my passion.
Yeah, I mean, covers, just memorizing art is a great way
Yeah.
to do it,
Yeah.
but with 45s, somewhat futile.
Yeah. So, what type of work, or tell me about the kind of work you put out into the world at that time?
Um, you know, I was buying records left and right. I had a ton of records. They weren't they weren't doing any good sitting on the floor, right? So I was making DJ mixes. I practiced DJing every day during that time. I would come home from classes and just practice juggling, practice cutting, um, make beats. It was, you know, every day. It was exercising. So Soul Short was a great place to, just you're working on a beat, just put it up. Hey, what do you guys think? You know, and just to be able to play it for other humans is incentive to keep working. So it was great.
I think some of the mixtapes you dropped at the time were at the peak of beat digging mixtape era. And
Hmm.
you're one of the great ones who put them out. Con and Amir, another great one. Con Man, Soul Man. These are some of the ones that were very popular at that time. You put out REM Sleep, and it opened up my mind to the world of Psych Rock. And it made me a lifelong appreciator of Psych Rock. Psych Rock has an air of mystery around it. It's heavily sampled. It still feels untapped.
Well, I mean, Psych in the record sphere has always been kind of collectible and rare and expensive. I mean, even before beat diggers and stuff like that, there was, old hippie guys who were trying to, complete their Psych collections. And some of that stuff was in the, five to $2,000 range, in the 90s, before records really achieved those kinds of numbers. So, yeah, I mean, you would find something that spoke to you. They often have a very, you know, specific look to them. So you'd see something and you'd be like, oh, this is worth checking out. But I think Psych, like as a genre, is not necessarily a genre. It's more like a series of symptoms, right? Like there's like, you know, I think the main thing that distinguishes Psych is it happened at a time where there was a massive um leap forward in technology in effects, stereo recording, and people were really experimenting with those things. Like just using the studio as an instrument, right? Flipping tapes backwards. I mean, the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper's is a Psych record without a doubt. Pink Floyd, Psych records without a doubt. So I don't think it's necessarily a genre as much as it is, like I said, a series of symptoms.
I think it's a good characterization.
Hmm.
The interesting and wild techniques. When you mentioned the Beatles, there's a song, Blue Jay Way.
Hmm.
It's one of the early uses of backwards guitar.
Hmm.
I've always found that mind bending.
Yeah, I mean, happy accidents are more frequent when you use a lot of experimental techniques, and I think a lot of things came from accidental, you know, blending of sounds and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, think about it. Before that, those bands were like garage bands. They were recording the whole band in one room with like two or three mics. Um, and their biggest hope was to have a 45 in a jukebox, not an album of experimental music and a huge breadth of fans that were following them as artists. So it was a massive shift just in the recording industry in general. Um,
Many of our listeners may be OGs who are deep in the game who know a lot about records. Some of them are new and early in their music journey. If you were to break it down in a simple way, as a beat digger, can you give a brief introduction to the world of psych rock?
okay, so I'd say, what are they called? Oh man, you put me on the spot here. The Music Machine, John Bonnewell Music Machine. The first, sorry, my light keeps going out. The John Bonnewell Music Machine, the first album is it's pretty garage-ish. It's up tempo, kind of hard, um, like proto punk almost. And then the second one is like a full blown psych album. But you can kind of those first two Music Machine albums are an excellent map for the trajectory of psych rock. Um, I mean, I do think that in the UK they really took the ball and ran with it a lot more than Americans did. The American music industry was, very corporate. And some of these experimental bands just couldn't make it. So they did things like make Christian music and stuff like that, and to sell records, right? And you can find elements of psych in Christian rock and stuff like that. But the UK, the Black Sabbaths, the Pink Floyds, tons of smaller bands, that is a massive move towards psychedelic rock and effects and using the studio as an instrument. The US kind of caught on to that and made it more corporate, and that's what people consider like bubblegum psych. So you hear more. There was a guy, a big producer in Los Angeles named Mike Curb, who was worked with Disney and ABC and stuff. But I mean, he had side projects that were definitely psych, but you can tell they had to drag him kicking and screaming to actually make it psych, right? Like there's um a label called Tower Records. Um, that I think he had something to do with Tower, and there's some very important psych records on that label. But I don't think that he was by any means a like progenitor of psychedelic rock. He just was the money. So, but yeah, psych.
No curb congregation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, those are his like kids records and stuff like that. But I mean, he was a producer of Davy Allen and the Arrows. Um, Definitely cool psych stuff. And they did soundtracks for like drag racing movies and just kind of like what like B movie stuff, B movie soundtracks. You find a lot of it there. But the UK is the epicenter for psych, I think. And then that that spilled over into Europe, Poland, Turkey, um, all over the world. But the UK took the ball and ran with it, and really used the studio as an instrument.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Excellent. I like how you distinguish between areas in the psych rock world, and you mentioned the bubblegum part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big movie guy. I watched a movie called The Game. So The Game is Michael Douglas, Sean Penn, David Fincher film. It's a fantastic movie that's kind of underrated in the history of movies. And it ends with Jefferson Airplane's Surrealistic Pillow. And I was so taken with that movie and that song. I was like, this is the best. And then, it's a very easy record to find. So I bought it. And I started asking a guy at a record store, I'm like, hey, do you have any advice for me? And I was like pretty young at the time. I really like this record, Jefferson Airplane, The White Rabbit, Surrealistic Pillow. Do you have any suggestions for other types of psych music? And the guy looks at me, he's like, that's not psych rock. You kidding me? And then he goes on this long speech, which I found humorous, but it's just my early introduction to this world.
I mean that the American labels definitely skewed it, and they corporatized it, and then it became like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some like bubblegummy psych stuff, but it's all over the place. It was just like hippie culture in crossing over into the mainstream. But like, Chevy Chase, the comedian, was in a psych band in the 60s called Chameleon Church.
Wow.
There's tons of, Billy Joel's first group, the Hassles, would largely be considered a psych record. It was all encompassing of pop rock at that time. So
Let's take it back to REM sleep. What was the response to REM sleep at the time?
that's funny. I mean, I just you mentioned Khan and Amir and Soul Man, and their ability to put out tapes and get them get distribution was because of their connections to the industry. Amir was a manager at Fat Beats. Soul Man had, been a contributor to The Source magazine for a long time. Those guys had inside scoops to the industry, so they were able to get their tapes distribution. It wasn't until I moved to New York where I started meeting people and getting, gravity pulling me towards some form of success. But REM Sleep is one of the first mixes I did that got distribution. So, when I pressed up those CDs, they went out all over the world, and I started hearing back from more people than just Soul Strut, right? I think Turntable Lab had a lot to do with that at the time. So that was cool. And then a French label called 6 Ton Armor reached out about doing a second one, and they were going to, pay for production and do the cover and stuff like that. And all of that just takes so much time. It allowed me to really just focus on the mix. That was great. I like the second one a lot. I think the second one was great. But yeah, I mean, that was both the beginning for me of like actual recording industry, success, and kind of the end, because CDs kind of fell off a cliff at that time. So, it was both great and a bummer.
So let's take it to the great part. So you had this kind of growing popularity, REM Sleep 1 to 2. You got involved with the label. That's a lot of success for a mixtape. It is.
Sure. Yeah.
How did it feel to you to get this early feeling of success?
It was cool, and it pushed me to, want to make more. I mean, at the time, I was really focused on DJing, and I was a DJ in New York. I was a club DJ. I played bottle service clubs. I wasn't playing psych records. This was like a side project that allowed me, to kind of delve into music that I liked and listened to on my own. Um, there is also like I guess I just kind of like focus on what I find to be like little um, genres in genres that I like to identify and focus on. So I thought the REM sleep thing was just like a sound. It was like a slower, sludgier, dreamier kind of sound that I tried to focus on, almost balladish, right? Because so many psych records have up tempo stuff that it's maybe less. Anyway, that sound was something I wanted to focus on. Um, I've lost my way. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
How did it feel to see the success of REM sleep?
Oh, success. Good. I mean, it's always cool to, uh, meet someone who's into your work. I played South by Southwest, and I remember, being at a record store and people coming up to me and saying, "Hey, we love your work," and stuff like that. So that's always great. Certainly wasn't enough success to like give me a big head or some kind of ego trip, but it was cool. It's always great to hear that people enjoy, your labor and efforts.
I could tell you with all certainty that I really enjoyed them. It opened up my mind to the world of psych rock. It made me a lifelong appreciator. So I want to give you full credit for that.
No, thanks.
Did you ever get the feeling that people sampled from REM sleep?
Oh, and other mixes. I did one called Raja's Meter that was like, I mean, I guess Turkish focused, but I also had records from Egypt and Lebanon and Iran, and it was Raja's Meter was something I read about the rhythm of the camel stride and how that was part of Middle Eastern based music. Um, and that we sold at shops around New York, and I heard a Most Def beat, and I was like, "Where'd you get that?" So I definitely think people were sampling my mixes, which is fine. None of it's my music, so what do I care, right? If I mixed two things together that went beautifully well, and someone did that, then I'd be like, "Come on, man." But it's none of it's mine, so what does it matter to me, right? It's great. Someone's listening to it.
I think it's a good attitude.
Yeah.
Your mixtapes, they are a form of creativity. I mean, you did a great job in blending them together. You mentioned you practice a lot as a DJ and you cared about DJing.
Hmm.
And even though you're not like doing, back to back and cutting on these mixtapes, the drops, the arrangement, the selection, you had this drop, "You Are Asleep Now." It's dope.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm not surprised people sampled it. I asked that question kind of facetiously. Yeah, I'm sure people sampled it. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I mean, if you made a mixtape and there was a song on there that I wanted to play out, I was going to rip that part of your mixtape and convert it to a file that I could play in clubs. No problem.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever works.
Yeah.
And like we said, I think you've paid your dues. You've done your fair share of real life digging.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely, when I hear people say digging, they're like, "We're going digging," or like, "I went digging." And I'm like, "You went to a record store, dude. Like, you did not get a lung disease or you know what I mean? That this is not, I've crawled through horrible, horrible messes and stuff to get records. So that's digging, you know, but I digress.
So this level of digging, I mean, most people are not doing that. This is beyond the average person. And you made these mixtapes, great. They had success. Well, what led you to doing all of that? Because the average person would not invest that level of time and resources to get this stuff.
DC is a super international city. There's people that lived here, and amassed things and built a life here and then left. And they're from all over the world. So growing up looking for records here, I would find interesting things that you didn't see every day. And those Turkish things, those Middle Eastern things were things that I would just set aside for myself. I didn't really think they had any value or anything. And then I'm not sure what lit the spark. I mean, I think uh, you know, Afghanistan and Iraq, being in our like collective consciousness every day might have had something to do with it in retrospect. But I did have all these records and they had this sound and I was like, hey, this is underappreciated. And I thought that, again, a micro genre and a sound and trying to connect it. And like you said, that drop, adding some sort of like self-aggrandizing branding to it, right? So yeah, I mean, it's all those things. It's hip hop, it's graffiti, it's you know, yeah, sure. I sold records, but that was more an incentive to look for more records, right? So um, I wouldn't say dealing records ever. If you want to be a successful record dealer, you probably shouldn't care about music at all. You should be selling everything you can. And looking for records and stashing them away isn't helping you, pay the bills. So, I mean, I think that's part of it, but it was more an incentive to keep looking. So,
I think that's it's always interesting to find people's motivation for something
mhm.
because it's not comfortable, it's quite difficult, and it's not immediately rewarding. And also the reward, I mean, that's a very specific kind of reward that most people in their right mind would not spend all this effort doing. I just want to say, I think it's great. I
Well,
support it.
well, yeah. I mean, I guess growing up without social media and without the internet, um, it was it was pretty hard to find things that rewarding. Like if you were a skateboarder during that time, you would like have three friends who clapped when you landed a trick or something, and that was so great. You know what I mean? Now everyone is filming everything and stuff. So yeah, I guess it was just that things were smaller. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you have a fan here, so I want to recognize all that stuff you did. I think it's pretty cool. I
Thanks,
think it's
man.
pretty cool. So, what happened next for you?
Um, yeah, I was in New York, man, and it's this epicenter of capitalism, and you're constantly becoming a new person, and I I was pursuing DJing professionally. I was doing all right. I had some regular gigs at kind of fancier places in Manhattan uh, for years. And 2008, um, the financial crisis, um, the bottom fell out for everyone, not just DJs, everybody. And I did start working at that record store good. That was great. Um, then I was around, um, Rare Records more than I was Bottle Service and Sequins. And um, I was able to, delve into that further, like every day, being around records I'd never seen and listening to things. And so that was great. That was the next era for sure.
That sounds like a fantastic place to be for you. You are already deeply knowledgeable, just being totally immersed in it. Must have been amazing for you.
It was cool. It was cool. We had a pipeline to African records from Nigeria and Ghana and beyond from a friend of the shop who was importing records at the time. Through his wife worked at the UN, so duty free. I probably shouldn't be divulging this, but
So
you know, we got basically, he went through the boxes, took out what he wanted, and the entire second, dibs was us, right? So boxes and boxes and boxes of Phalod, Frimpong, um, Marajada, like tons of these really cool African records that you just don't see coming through. But that was pretty cool. I got pretty burned out on them because there's so many and so many to listen to and so many to clean. I mean, they were just filthy. They were coming from. So I think our agent had cab drivers working for him, and so the cab drivers would petition their clientele for records and go to their home, and they were like, yeah, sure, come look at them. So they would buy the records, and then the collective haul of the cab drivers was given to this guy Damien, who would then send them over. I mean, we sent them half the money we made with those records, so I imagine they did quite well, some of those guys, hopefully. But those records were filthy. They were termite infested. Lord knows, right? And they were not going through customs. So, one day, I would clean them all day. And one day I woke up and I just had a pain in my eye. And I looked in the mirror and there was a blister on my eyeball. Like my eyelid was hitting this blister on my eyeball. It was disgusting. I was like, what is this? Oh my God. I went to the doctor. The doctors didn't know what it was. They put me on one antibiotic and then it didn't work, and then another. And then eventually Cipro cleared it up, which was like what I guess they use that for treating anthrax. And that was a that was a weird digging related incident that I could have lived without. But yeah.
that's
But
insane.
yeah, I mean, just seeing that many cool records come through the shop and listening to them. And, also it was eye opening to, trends in like people that fetishize, you know, um, other cultures and stuff like that. I was like, it gave me insight to that, a little bit. But it wasn't just those African records. We got a blues archive one time that was really interesting. I mean, thousands and thousands of these like archives, like British archives of American blues records. They were so nerdy about it. That provided some insight too, of former record nerdery. Like these things came out in the 70s and 80s in the UK, and I was like, oh wow, okay, so there was, the Eric Claptons and Jimmy Pages and Jeff Becks of the world all were influenced by something, and it was these compilations of blues records. So I was able to kind of hear those and check those out. That was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, things at the record store were more musical than I had previously. I had bought records almost in a selfish way, like how can I sample this or put this on a mix or make things. And in the record store it became more archival and educational. And I was old enough to like start appreciating things differently, so that's great.
You weren't kidding about getting a goddamn disease from
Yeah,
digging.
no,
Yeah,
it was
you
bad.
weren't kidding. You weren't
They
kidding
didn't
at
know what
all.
it was. It was really gross.
And if you think about it, in the post-COVID time, that's terrible. It could lead to some kind of insane
Oh,
outbreak amongst nations.
Oh yeah, we could have got brought Ebola to New York City without a doubt. I mean that now thinking about it, I probably shouldn't be divulging all that information. But
No one cares.
what's the statute of limitations on customs fraud?
Dude, it's completely past. There's a
Yeah,
lot worse things happening in the world.
sure,
And also, if anyone cared, they wouldn't be listening to a beat digging podcast.
probably.
Yeah. So you were in New York at that time, right?
Uh-huh.
How did you transition into focusing more on music production and putting out music of your own?
I always made beats and had some. I wanted to make records. I always wanted to make records. But I don't know. I guess I just was too stubborn to really like try and make things that I was hearing on those records. I was like, oh no, I just want to make music out of other people's music, and that became less and less fulfilling, over time. And then when things with the shop went a different direction, I started a company with my wife at the time. We had a wedding DJ company and got very, very lucky. I mean, with some of our press and stuff like that. And that business exploded. Now I wasn't playing Turkish Psych at weddings. I was playing, what you would imagine I was, but very lucrative. And I was able to take some of uh, my financial success that I was amassing and pivot that towards production. And I had other friends who were, pretty successful record producers at that time. Um, and a couple of them moved to LA, and their studio became, kind of, a friend moved in there, and then the landlord of that studio evicted them, and they were looking for another studio, and I found a place, and we partnered up, and we opened a studio. Uh, and it was a big financial investment and pretty scary, but I had the money and the time. I was only working on the weekends, so I could devote my weeks to building this place out. And so I started researching how to build, soundproofing and where to put mics and, what kind of preamps I should be investing in and stuff like that. And I had a lot of friends in that sphere who helped me during that time. And yeah, I just devoted all my time to making music that I would have liked to hear on those records. The sounds, not taking them from records, but actually making them from scratch. It just felt more fulfilling to do it that way. Um, so yeah, I mean, I still sampled, I still took drum samples and chopped them up, but all the melodies were things we made up and cooked up ourselves. So
I think that's great. I mean, you've certainly led an interesting life, and I think it's impressive how you've gone from phase to phase to phase. I mean, I think that's a good lesson for anyone. And also, you don't know what phase is next. There could be a whole new wave.
and there was. And there was.
All right. What happened next?
Well, I mean, COVID was not exactly friendly to anyone who was making money in weddings, clubs, anything like that. Um, God forbid you were a chef or a waiter or a bartender. So yeah, I mean that destroyed everything. Everybody went everywhere. Um, so yeah, I mean, I kept making music during that time, and I had a lot of things left over that I finished and kind of put out maybe a little too quickly. But yeah, that was pretty much it for music for me. And I'm back to DJing again, which is great, but it's not the same as it used to be. And I'm not the same age, so I consider myself pretty lucky to still be, playing records for people. But I play a lot more like disco and house and stuff like that. Things that in the 90s, I kind of, thumbed my nose at. And now I'm a little more open to. Um, so, yeah.
Well, you got to keep rolling, brother. I mean, it's
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
can't. We're not stuck in the goddamn '90s here. And like we said, you have a very attuned ear, and it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to lose yourself, right? And your taste and your years of knowledge and expertise. I think it's valuable, whatever value means to people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
back here in DC now. And this is actually a wonderful place to be for records, especially right now. For some reason, I think it's storage units. I think a lot of people are passing away and their family aren't paying their storage fees. And these records are winding up with junk dealers. But the collections are plentiful and they're full of disco, go-go, boogie stuff. Things that in the 90s I probably passed over and regrettably. And I'm glad I have a second chance now to like, you know, rediscover some of that stuff. Um, and so, yeah, it's funny now my records are like, the things that I filed away and are nice in a shelf alphabetical. And then there's boxes on the floor of things I play out. Right? The workhorses and stuff like that. And so that's really become my focus now with records is the workhorses.
Hey, I mean, whatever
Yeah.
works.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
whatever works. People have different views on this, but I figure if you can make a living with anything creative, I think that's a privilege in a way. Most people don't get to
Mhm.
do that. I often say, I really like basketball. I used to play basketball a lot. I'm like 5'6". It doesn't mean I'm not in the NBA. So listening to music, making beats, all that stuff, it's a joy. It's an art form. It's a pleasure. The fact that you get to make any kind of a living at all is an accomplishment in this world.
I think that with beat digging and even electronic music, you're making music by yourself, right? In your space. And um there's something to that. I mean, the Tame Impalas and the UMOs of the world have really found success in that, and prior to that, plenty of folks. But compromising and working with other people is a kind of a dead art, and I think that that's worth rediscovering. I think that the things I did musically with other people became a soup that wouldn't have existed otherwise with them or with me. Like the compromise became something new. And now I'm hearing some of these older psych records and stuff like that and realizing that the magic in those records is the compromise. Like the Led Zeppelins of the world would have never happened with any of those guys on their own. And yeah, maybe the thing you like least about it, like a lot of people don't like Robert Plant's voice, but maybe Robert Plant was the glue. You know what I mean? Maybe he was the leadership. So yeah, going back and listening to those things that you're like super familiar with, the Beatles, the Pink Floyds and stuff like that, have kind of taken on a new life since I started making music with instruments and groups and you know compromising with other people. Um, that's the magic, and it would be cool to have that come back to music again. I feel like.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
the magic of collaboration
Hmm.
is something that's very real. It's hard to duplicate.
Hmm.
And also, like you mentioned, certain people are the glue, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and you could see that in many types of music, definitely in the world of hip hop history. Think about some of the super producers.
Or basketball.
Yeah, there you
Basketball,
go.
that's a team game, right? I mean, you know,
Yeah,
you you are pushed by your peers, right?
yeah. We're talking Draymond. Yeah. this
Yeah.
happens. I was thinking Dr. Dre. I think of all the people associated with the Chronic 2000 album. So many great records. One of the greatest albums of all time, and the great contributors. But those contributors don't have another Chronic by Mailman. Like it's not.
Right.
It's like
Right.
the magic of the collaboration is what made that great, and that there's countless stories like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be more accurate in like the Far Side, you know, or Freestyle Fellowship or those groups. They were a collective. They were not. It wasn't, you know, Fat Lip featuring JD. You know what I mean? It was kind of like they were just a group, and the success of the group was the group. It wasn't one person. So, yeah, the kind of like selfish nature of electronic music, um, you know, it's a different way of cooking, right?
Yeah.
It's a different kitchen.
Yeah. I get you.
Yeah.
All right, let's play a game. It's a segment of the show called Drop a Gem on 'em. It's a word association game. Tell me what comes to mind. It could be a feeling, personal story, really anything. Donovan, get thy bearings.
You know, funny, I heard a cover of that. I can't remember who did it. It says it's like I don't know if it's a library record or something. But I remember hearing that and then playing it, and then a friend being like, "Oh, that's a Donovan song." I was like, "Really?" And then going back and listening to the Donovan song and liking it so much more, and then being like, maybe I should listen to more Donovan, you know, and going back in and listening to more Donovan. That's, you know, I kind of a bubblegum psych artist, but definitely had some moments. And then to find out that, you know, Speak of the Devil, Led Zeppelin came out of his, you know, his studio band, is pretty interesting too. So, did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jimmy Page, John Bonham, and John Paul Jones were all part of his, you know, his backing band.
That is awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, I love that kind of thing. I was
Mhm.
going to say they're sampled by Biz Markie, but either way,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, there's that too.
both good facts. I I like how you mentioned some of the Eastern sounds, Turkish, Middle Eastern. An artist I'll bring up, Barish Mancho,
Mhm.
or I've been calling him for years Baris Manco, but
Yeah.
I've been corrected. And I mean, there's so many songs. There's one song that stands out to me, Gonul Degai. Pronunciation may be way off.
Which album?
Single.
A 45?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot. He was a huge star. Enormous pop star in Turkey. And the rumor mill I hear is that he was found when he died in bed with his mistress or something like that. It was like a scandal. But yeah, he was a huge star. I mean, tons of pop records. If you went to Turkey, you would have no shortage of Barris Mancho records. They're everywhere. But he's got joints for sure. For sure. That was it like 2030. That record is so
Yeah.
good. So good.
Yeah. He is super ill. I'm a fan, and there's so much more to learn about it. And you're right. If you went to Turkey, there would be a ton of his records.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did one of my first episodes of the show was about him. So I did some research, and he was not only very famous as an artist, he went on to have a travel show that was also massively popular until
Right.
he died. Right.
Yeah.
So he's a massive star, and he had a home in this area in Istanbul called Moda.
Mm-hmm.
And Moda is unbelievably nice place. It's by the sea and it's got a beautiful view. And it's got like a bohemian cafe vibe. And yeah, he was a star. I mean, he's a hell of a character. His look, his
Oh yeah.
artwork, his photography, major.
Yeah. I mean his fashion sense. But a lot of those Turkish guys in the 70s, man, you're like, what were you rocking, dude? They had some They had some gear for sure.
Yeah. What a country. What a country.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real beast of the East was Erkin Koray, the
Okay.
guitar player, Turkish guy. I mean, that guy is massively influential. If you listen to like Krangbin, I hope I'm saying it right,
Clark Benton, yeah.
that guitarist is clearly influenced by Erkin Koray. Clearly. I mean, that style of pull-offs and stuff is very much linked to one guy. So yeah, I
Did
mean,
he have his own records? Did he have his own
Erkin,
records or was yeah.
Erkin Koray was a huge artist for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, highly recommended.
Okay. I'm a huge fan of Krugman. I mean, amazing band, also great live.
Yeah, I saw
I
them. They were
definitely
fantastic.
oh yeah, they could play.
Yeah.
They could play. Um
What's the guy's name? Mark just a absolute demon of a guitar player. So good. Yeah.
and he doesn't overdo it, right? He's
No.
got a lot of soul. Like he's got that perfect touch. I've never seen a show where a guy just kind of walks side to side and just shreds and
Yeah.
people are just stunned.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
No, he's
Uh,
fantastic. And the fact that they put that show together with those songs strung one into the other is it's quite a feat. And yeah, pretty amazing.
yeah, huge fan. So let's go back to the world of bubblegum psych rock. And you tell me if this qualifies as bubblegum. I'll say it's certainly good. Vanilla Fudge, keep me hanging on.
I mean, that was a pop record, right? Because of the time it came out, I suppose you could lump it in with Psych, but I would consider that more of a pop record.
Certainly had some of those symptoms you mentioned, right?
Hmm.
I mean, it's a song that's played on literal commercials, but it's great. I love that
Hmm.
song. It's fantastic. Went on to be remade by, I think, the Supremes. Great song. It's always somehow in my rotation.
Yeah. I mean, maybe what you're hearing, and this kind of ties Motown in with Psych, is there was a guitar pedal at that time called the Maestro Fuzz Tone. Um, and you hear there's the first Maestro Fuzz Tone, which is the guitar tone you hear in Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. Um, but then the second version of it, people started bypassing the amplifier and going directly into the board with it because it has a kind of synth tone, and you hear that in the Supremes. You hear that Dennis Coffey was a major, you know, user of that sound, and definitely helped it cross into American soul music and stuff like that. But you hear it in Psych Records. It's one of the defining symptoms that we're talking about. So yeah, that's definitely something that the late '60s, early '70s is consistent across music at that time.
Next song, The Electric Prunes, Holy Are You.
Uh, David Axelrod, man, you know,
Yeah.
just amazing. I don't know. I think I got Danny. Uh, is that his name? The guy who put out Dusty Fingers? Danny Dan the Beat Man
Yeah.
hooked me up with a bunch of recordings and stems and stuff like that. And one thing he gave me was the instrumental version of that without the vocals, without the religious vocals. And I enjoy that a lot. That is fantastic. But yeah, that's like you. I mean, if I heard that for the first time anywhere, I'd be like, oh, that's David Axelrod. I mean, that is Earl Palmer on drums, Carol Kay on bass. That is Capitol Records Studio 2B or whatever. Because prior to that, I think the Electric Prunes have a kind of a hit, a 45 called I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night. And that's a much more psych record. I feel like that is like all of the symptoms rolled into one. But yeah, Holy Are You, great track. Love it.
Yeah. It's a great place to start when it comes to the world of beat digging. And anyone who's getting into it now, this is a devastating break. Really well known, but uh, I feel like you can't talk about that kind of thing enough. It's so great. Heavily sampled too.
Beat Nuts. Yeah.
Beat nuts.
Yeah. They were the first people I heard use that. For sure.
I was wondering, where did I hear it first? It was a song called Respect Mine, Fat Joe and Raekwon. And then for some reason, I thought that was Diamond who produced that, Diamond D. But I looked it up. It's a guy named Joe Fatal.
Oh, yeah, Joe Fatal. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Bronx
done a
dude,
ton
right?
of stuff, which I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I Stone Crazy by the Beat Nuts may have been the biggest like leap of, I mean, Mr. Long from Black Sheep used a lot of Psych records in the early 90s, but didn't really embrace that sound fully. He just kind of turned it into hip hop. But the Beat Nuts on Stone Crazy were like that's when the first hip hop record that sounded like a Psych album. I feel like, they really embraced it and leaned into it.
Your range of music knowledge is fantastic. I think our listeners love what you just said. Rare Bird, Beautiful Scarlet.
Cool song. I think, did I hear Diplo sample that a long, long time ago? He had a solo album put out in the UK, and I think his first single was largely based on that Beautiful Scarlet sample.
I had no idea. Apparently Diplo was a heavy beat digger.
I mean, he was roommates with my friend Tony and this guy Dewey, and those guys were heavy beat diggers. And I think Diplo was, hung out with them all the time, so I'm sure it rubbed off on him. And I know he borrowed a lot of records from Tony for some of those mixes they made. AEIOU mixes. If you haven't heard those, you should definitely look into those.
Tell me about Tony. Did he have a artist name?
Triple Double. He was on Soul Strut, but I met Tony before I even knew about Soul Strut. He came to Richmond. He was he was just driving around the U.S. in a van buying records, and somehow I linked up with him, and he came over. So I met him a long, long time ago. We still talk occasionally. Good dude. Yeah.
You're really dropping some crazy gems. Like I'm glad you knew that extreme level of detail. I'm not surprised Diplo is into records. I mean, he's obviously massively successful. One of our previous guests mentioned they saw him a lot at Roosevelt record shows, which I found surprising.
Yeah, I had two of the big record dealers at Roosevelt were from Richmond. A guy named Len Funk and his friend Craig. And those guys were taking records from Richmond up to New York and selling them to, Beat Miners and Beat Nuts and Q-Tip and all of them. And they were becoming, some of these hip hop classics we have now. And so I was fortunate to be by the source, right? But, and go over to their houses and go through their records and stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So tell me more about this. You've piqued my interest massively, because there's nothing I find more fascinating to find out where people source records from.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything more to say about that? And, if you don't feel comfortable divulging, I feel like there's a lot in your head.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, one thing I didn't bring up in the interview is that I did radio in those college years too. But I wasn't playing beat digging stuff. I was playing hip hop records, and I was serviced those records by the labels and stuff like that. So during the 90s, I was swimming in major label hip hop stuff.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not surprised by any of that. Whether you said it or not, I know you're a rap dude. I can tell, right? I can tell from your mixes. That's where it's coming from, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really lean into that because that was, axiomatic or whatever. Yeah, Len, and so those guys, the Len and Craig, were record dealers and would sell at shows in Richmond at the Crown Plaza, or not even like the Best Western or something on like Staples Mill Road, and I would show up. I'd stay up all night, and I'd show up at 5 in the morning, and I would hit up their boxes while they were waiting in line to get in. I was a fiend, and
Savage.
and it's funny because like we're all friends to this day. Like I still talk to those guys and see them on occasion. I saw Len like 6 months ago, and I don't think at the time I really knew how influential he was ultimately. And after living in New York, talking to people, they're like, "Oh yeah, Len Funk." I'm like, "I know Len." That's so funny. So yeah, the whole thing came full circle, and realizing that I was there, buying records from these same places that some of those hip hop records were made, right?
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Trifle. Nuva Religion.
I have it. I love that record. I like the whole album. It's fantastic. I can't tell you if it's Argentinian. I think it's Argentinian. I might be wrong. Great album, beginning to end.
You certainly have it. It's on REM Sleep Volume 1.
Well, that doesn't mean I still have it. I sold a lot of those records.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't be moving place to place taking all these records, man. It's when I left New York, I sold a lot of my collection at WFMU, and one of my criteria was, can I listen to at least one whole side of the record? And if it was just one track and everything else on it was annoying, out of here. And some of those one hit records are worth a lot of money. So,
Yeah, it almost has no impact on the price. Yeah, that's
yeah. That Trifle record is definitely one I kept. You can really play the whole thing, and it's quite good.
at the time of this recording. It's November 9th. I went to WFMU yesterday, record fair.
Oh shit! I was gonna come up for that. Damn it! I missed it.
Wow.
How was it?
It was great. It was
Yeah.
great just to see the atmosphere. I mean, you see
Yeah.
a lot of grails and you see how much people are into records. I have no reference point. I can't compare it to 10 years ago, but there was a line, huge line to get in. There was like Ghostface Killer was there. Other rappers were there. I think Large Professor came.
He's at everything lately. I see Large at everything, man. He's everywhere. I love that.
Yeah, I met him at Craterycon in Toronto. A friend of mine put that on. Met him there. Yeah, he's working.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Not a lot of rappers and producers from 1992, 93 are working that hard now.
Well, I mean, he was an intern at Paul C's studio in Queens in the 80s, working on Ultramagnetic MC's albums, Paid in Full, like all those records. I mean, he was an intern back then. So Large has been around for a long time, even on the back end of things,
Yeah.
Like he put Nas on, like so.
Yeah, all of that I know, the main source, Nas and beyond. The policy part I know, but the part that, I mean, maybe it's true that he produced Let the Rhythm Hit Him album.
Oh, I mean, if that's not obvious to you by listening to it, I mean, I can't help you,
I can believe it. It sounds great. I love the album. It's one of the first albums that got me into the world of beat digging.
Mm-hmm.
But how come it's impossible that Eric B could produce? Why does no one give Eric B any credit?
That is a very scary guy.
That
is a very scary guy. I don't think anybody would be besmirching him in public. You ever see that thing, the many faces of Eric B, and he's just not smiling in like 100 pictures? He's just like, yeah, that he was at a direct relationship to the crack kingpin of New York City, Supreme. So I don't think that, yeah, I don't think anybody was messing with him. You know, same with Sugar Hill Records in the '80s, man. That was like a infamously criminally linked organization. So
That explains a lot.
yeah,
I believe you, and I've heard these things in drips and drabs. The guy is on TV every week on a cop show.
Eric B,
Yeah,
was
he's an
he?
act. Yeah, he's an actor who works every week on a procedural TV show.
I didn't know that.
All of this is true, and he's a successful actor. I'll just say, what a
Sure.
life.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I think people would tell you Fat Joe was a pretty scary dude at one time, So, I mean, showbiz, Mr. Cheeks, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, like, in New York, those dudes' names carried a little weight, and you know, you probably didn't want to be besmirching them in any way, shape, or form.
Showbiz, I've heard a little bit. I didn't know until maybe recent interviews.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about Mr. Cheeks.
Oh,
Seems so likable. Such a
yeah,
likable rapper. Like, and he's
yeah,
in the video, seemed like such a nice guy. I'm sure he was. I mean, who knows?
yeah. I mean, the '80s were different.
I live in the 90s on the Upper West Side.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to someone who wrote a book about MF Doom, great guy named Skiz. And he lived in New York in the 90s. And he's like, that area was 1,000% different than than what it is now. And there was a crew named CM, which MF Doom was a part of, MF Grimm, a lot of other people, Rock Rada. And yeah, it was kind of rougher around here. It's all strollers now. That's what I'll tell you.
Oh yeah, over by Riverside Park, right up there.
Yeah, I'm closer to Central Park, but either way, it's all quite low.
Riverside, where the stairs go down to the bike path. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Doom. Did you hear Czarface?
I didn't get into that one as much. I know it exists, but not as much.
That was recorded at my studio. A lot of those vocals and
Crazy
samples and stuff.
You're just bringing this up now. We're like 1 hour into the conversation. Tell me all about it.
I wasn't there. That's my friend Jeremy helped produce that stuff with 7-0. But cool. My microphone was there. My guitar was there. My keyboards are there. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal to many people. I know. You're just kind of
I mean, I had
it.
no hand in it at all, so
Okay.
I can't exactly brag on it, right? But cool,
Vox Day by Genesis.
Vox Day is the group called Genesis?
Dude, I don't know if the group is called Genesis or the song is called Genesis.
Oh yeah. That is I'm pretty sure Argentinian record, and I believe a Christian record. I mean, Vox Dei means voice of God in Latin, right? So, yeah, very cool record. Very cool.
Your endless source of knowledge. I was also on REM Sleep. This song on REM Sleep I'm going to mention was both super dope and kind of hilarious. Puka, Rain on Your Grave.
You think it's hilarious?
I think what a tough song. Rain on Your Grave, and they're just saying it over and over. I mean, I was like, this is dope, and kind of like an ending to a like a murder scene in a film. Like, it's unbelievable.
That whole album's fantastic and quite rare, I think. You know who brought that up to me randomly? I met, do you know Monk One?
Everyone talks about Monk One, but I don't personally know Monk One.
Yeah, Monk. When I first met Monk, he was like, "Man, you used that Puka song on that mix. Like, that's my shit," you know. And we even, I up until 19 or 2019, talked about doing a cover of it or something like that. I mean, he loves that record. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. That hard filed in my collection. Love it.
I'm bringing up some of these songs. They're quite esoteric. I mean, most people don't know about Puka Rain on Your Grave. I'm doing it so anyone listening, this is what you want to get into. I could tell you with all certainty, it is dope.
YouTube that shit.
Yeah. Look it up, right?
Yeah.
Like, look it up. And I should be listening to it more often. I was just reminded of this, kind of prepping for this. Oneness of Juju, African Rhythms.
Yeah. Plunky. Plunky lived in Richmond. Still an artist down there. I don't know if he played with the Oneness of Juju still, but pretty prolific jazz guy. Was on a label here in DC called Black Fire, which initially put out Plunky and the Oneness of Juju and EU, Emotions Unlimited, which became a huge go-go band. But Plunky's work, the second album in particular, I think is like fantastic. The more blue one. The first one, great album, some breaks on there, some like funky tracks, but I think that I more enjoy the experimental nature of the second album. But yeah, Oneness of Juju, man.
It's a grail. It's a grail.
Yeah.
Great cover work, so people notice it straight away. Unbelievable record. Sampled by Jay Dilla or redone by Jay Dilla. Excellent record. Everyone should check that out. Let's talk about the group Can. From your perspective, can you tell our audience a little bit about the group Can?
About Con. They're called Con.
Let's just
Technically,
start
because
with
they're
that.
German.
Dude, let's just
right?
start with that.
Yeah.
Con.
In Germany, they are definitely Con.
It is then Con. I'm absolutely wrong in that. Go ahead.
But I wish I knew more about them. I love their work. Future Days, that Soundtracks album is phenomenal. There's obviously the Aggie Bamyazi or whatever that song is, and Tago Mago. Fantastic records. Listen to them. They're great. But I don't know if I would lump them into the psych genre. I think they're more prog, and I think that happens a lot. There was like a wave of educational, like academic musicians, especially in Europe, that like were really into alternate time signatures and stuff like that, and changes in melodies and stuff that really proliferated the music industry. In the US too, you had Yes, you had I don't know, even Rush is kind of like a prog group. So yeah, I would put Con in the prog genre, but they're their own thing for sure.
Dope band. Great
Yeah.
cover work. Very
Yeah.
popular. Maybe more popular in recent years than they were maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
For my understanding, from your perspective, what's the difference between prog rock, progressive rock, and psychedelic rock?
I mean, prog is academic. Ultimately, you don't hear too many untrained people making prog music. Psych had more, traditional blues structure, and just relied more on effects. Whereas prog was all about, academic experimentation. And prog went its own way in different countries. Italian prog is by far my favorite. It's a little more I know, digestible. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much academics.
I've been
Yeah,
using the terms possibly wrong and often interchangeably for years.
there's plenty of crossover. Plenty of crossover.
Well, you learn something new every day. Part of why I did the show is to talk to people like you and keep learning. Never ends. Loose ends. Dial 999.
Loose ends, like the group Loose Ends,
Yeah. You're looking at me like, why are you asking about loose ends?
like the British R&B group Loose Ends.
Yeah, yeah. Like hanging on a
Oh,
string.
I think Loose Ends is amazing. I'm like, it's only recently that I've really been getting into them. You know, I found a record the other day on Island that I think is their first record, and it's a Loose End, not Loose Ends. And I think it's called We Arrived or something like that. Pretty great. They were really big here in DC. They had a really big following here. I find a lot of their records here. But they're I think they're UK, right?
They're from the UK.
Yeah.
You're right. Their first album was called Loose End, and they changed to Loose Ends. They have many good and easy records to find.
Yeah.
And I love their sound. I love their vocals. And I brought them up to you because, you know, a lot of what we're talking about, it's a little heavy. Some of the
Sure.
music, like Rain on Your
Sure.
Grave. I thought this
Sure.
lighten up the vibe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Loose Ends, they definitely like, you know, they were almost a little academic themselves, kind of jazzy, but managed to you know, cross over into like danceable pop music in the US at the same time as like Level 42, you know, some of these UK acts that were jazzy and academic but had a little boogie to them, right?
Yeah.
But RIP, what's her name from Loose Ends? She died recently. The
I didn't
singer,
know that.
female vocalist. Anyway.
I first heard of them when I first got into beat digging. I heard Hanging on a String
Mm-hmm.
and I had the 45. I believe the other side was something sampled by Camp Low, who I was a big fan of at the time. And I thought that 45, I mean, I still have it. It's great 45, double sided banger. And also Hanging on a String, which is an unbelievable song and very popular song, was sampled by Big Daddy Kane. And I thought it was just my first, I was so new to record collecting and digging that I was like, oh, hearing that sample, that connection to another great song, it felt so exciting. I mean, that's the group I always in my rotation. I love them to this day.
Hey, you live in a great neighborhood for finding records. I hope you take advantage of that, man. There's a lot of records up there, man. A lot of people been in those apartments for, you know, 30, 40 years, and they just got record collections sitting there, man.
Maybe it's something I should look into. I'll tell you, in terms of
Oh yeah.
stores, there are none. You're talking about people who are
Oh
old.
no, you got to go to the source, man. You got to go to the source. I found my copy of ESG first album just sitting on the street there at like 68th and Broadway, just randomly in that median, just sitting by a bench. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
great.
yoink. Yeah, someone just put a pile of records out there.
My God. That area that you're talking about, that exact intersection.
Yeah.
So just to describe it, I know that you know, but for our listeners, it's like kind of where many streets cross. It's
Hmm.
where Broadway is, and it crosses with a street called Amsterdam, and it's kind of like where you start getting north. And it's very populated with people and nice stores and everything. It's like a kind of an epicenter street. And there's that little park that you just described, it's like an island where there's a subway and there's a small little park. And I'm sure that park has a name, but Al Pacino's first movie ever, the movie called Panic in Needle Park. It's an incredible movie. And he acts,
Yeah,
I
it's
believe he
good.
got nominated, right?
Yeah.
And that's Needle Park. And it's obviously a heavy drug movie. And it's still, I mean, look, drugs were, they were probably more pervasive at the time of that movie than they are now. Is a lot of drug use,
I
but
thought Needle Park was Thompson Square.
no,
No?
no.
Okay.
no, yeah.
I know
Uh,
that the oldest neon sign in America is there, or used to be. That one that says bar and it's just like a martini glass, just says bar. That's the oldest surviving neon sign in America.
I'll look for it next time.
It might not be there anymore. I don't
It
know.
might not be surviving.
Yeah. Yeah.
The tangents we go on. This has been
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, I learned so much from you.
Hmm.
What are you excited about in life at this time?
Passing the torch, hopefully finding, someone who's, you know, young and talented, that I can work with and make music with and help them, you know, uh, shine on their own. I think that's the next logical move forward because I really do think music is a young person's game. Um, the boomer school of artists in the 80s that kind of prevailed, right? Like the Phil Collins, the Peter Gabriel, the Lionel Richie, the Tom Petty, all those guys were in their 40s making pop records. I mean, that should have been young people making music and making pop records. Why did they gobble up all that? You know, Bonnie Raitt. Why was Bonnie Raitt making singles in, 1988? Like what? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, yeah, it's sad to see the music industry in the shambles it's in now, but maybe in a way it's kind of good. It can rebuild itself in the way that it should be. It should be young people making records for young people, and old people should get the fuck out of their way. 100%.
Interesting point of view. I think the music industry is in shambles, yet there is more opportunity than ever. There's more opportunity than ever to make music. It's cheaper and easier. People can do shit themselves. You don't need a recording studio in the same way that you used to. And also distributing is easier. It doesn't make music better at this time,
No.
but I think there's this transition happening. There is good music coming out all the time. I hear it. I mean, I love it. There's hip hop now that I love. I'm quite excited about the future. I feel like there's waves. Everything goes in cycles. I feel like things will come back that we like that are new to a whole new generation. And I just think there's new ways to do things. Like you have a fair point of view saying music is a young person's game. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Uh, but I don't think life is a young person's game. I feel like just like you've been through all those phases. I feel like the next wave is there for anyone if you look for it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And having the unfair advantage of growing up when I did or whatever is, I mean, young people do not have that luxury. And, you know, maybe that is the catalyst, right? But I just think being young is, you know, and it would be exciting for me to hear something new that I haven't heard before. And I'm a little disappointed that music hasn't changed at all in 20 years. I mean, really, like we're still hearing the same sounds that we heard 20 years ago. If you think about the way that music changed between 1968 and 1986, it's insane. It's insane how fast the you the if you track the progression of just even pop music or underground, whatever, it's you know yeah, it was just really really uh, a fast moving progression that just ended, and I don't know why. So it would be cool to hear something new, right? And maybe
Yeah.
that's why I liked Eastern records because it was like a different sensibility, right? Uh,
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I believe the future is in the past. I think that's a big part of digging. And yeah, it is a bit of a low of the music industry. And I would love to see more creativity. I don't know if the word is innovation.
I think innovation is the absolute right word. Yeah.
Everything has to innovate. I remain an optimist. Yeah, I remain an optimist. But on a, let's say, tangentially related, people love beat digging. Going to that record fair yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
WFMU, this show is popping off. It's a ultra specific topic. I've never heard of a show about beat digging, and people love to hear from people like you. So, yeah, there's
Cool.
opportunity everywhere.
I'm sad I missed WFMU, man. That sounds like a wonderful time. A friend of mine was there selling. Did you meet Doc Strange?
No, I didn't introduce myself to enough people.
That's someone you should interview. Bronx dude, been in this forever, knows everything, knows everyone. Just real fun person to talk to about music.
I met Cormega. That was
Oh,
cool.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's good. That's cool to me.
That's damn cool. Yeah. Queen's in the building.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good rapper. Good rapper. He had a lot of guys with him who I'm sure are wonderful people, but it made it seem like he was not very approachable because he had a crew of dudes with him. But I did say hello. I didn't get in a long conversation. I didn't ask him to come on my podcast. But maybe that's for next time. All right. Next time you come to New York, let's get together. Let's get a coffee. It's been such a pleasure having you on. This has been an amazing episode. Thank you for your time, brother.
Cool. Thanks for letting me run my mouth, man. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Anytime. Peace.
All right. Peace out.